All right, good morning, guys. Welcome to episode 4 of Eye of the Storm. Today we have with us Chaos, who writes Math of the Storm. We'll be talking. Yes, hi. Yeah, he has camera issues, unfortunately, so we couldn't get.
It's been a bad week for me, technically speaking.
You look good, though. You look good. You look good in your picture, though. And then we have Kubie, as always, and Shot right there. Yeah, so today we have planned with you, we're going to be talking a lot about the math behind Eye of the Storm, or Hero of the Storm. And then we're going to talk about Alterac Pass, and a lot of you have been asking me a ton of questions about the map and if I like it, but I've only gotten to play on it twice so far, despite my many games in HOTS. And oh, it's a puppy!
Puppy. Aww.
So Chaos, would it be okay if I, when we start talking about Alterac Pass, if I link the your article?
I'm sure my bosses at Tempo Storm would actually be ecstatic that more links to my article are being shared.
Okay.
Oh,
all right.
no.
Perfect. Don't worry.
Oh.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I was just getting the link. I got to figure out a better process for this. I need a studio. I need a studio. Seeing Discord messages over Kubie and Shot. No, I know. I had to get a link real quick. I'm sorry. I did it real quick. I'm sorry. Okay.
He hates us.
All right. So, Chaos, just like a short little description. Tell us about yourself.
So I'm relatively young. I just finished my third year of undergrad. I'm a computer science and political science major with an emphasis in computer security. So esports in some ways is definitely kind of my side thing. But in terms of HOTS, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, actually, I started May 2017. I kind of realized that the community just had a lot of issues in terms of knowing how the actual mechanics work, actually doing comparisons, because there are certain heroes with certain talent tiers, Tomorrow's level 7, where there are strictly inferior choices, and people would just have like really bad arguments and not really understand how everything was working. So my very first article was actually hosted on HeroesHype, and was about D.Va's ablative armor. For those of you that don't know, D.Va's ablative armor, it's a level 13 talent that whenever D.Va takes damage that is less than 4% of her maximum hit points, reduce it by 50%. The idea is that it's supposed to mitigate really small attacks, like, say, Nazebo's spiders and poisons and such, while not doing any mitigation against really big hits like Pyroblast. This was just it was one of those really weird abilities. And basically this article series has continued being a lot of math and then a lot of data mining, which is what this Alterac Pass article is more about.
Okay, so I'm going to link his Alterac Pass. We're not going to be talking about Alterac Pass just yet. We're going to talk about it later on the show, but here is the link on his article. And if you click on the links within the article as his spreadsheet and his NPC data, I can't make out any of it. Like, I understand, I just see a bunch of numbers, but it looks awesome, and we're going to be talking about this later.
What the? That's a great promotion.
That's why I want him on the show, because there's so much math behind the maps and the heroes, and like, I wonder if, getting all this information out there, if you're only just like a casual player, if it could be make worlds of difference in your play and how your team actually progresses throughout the game. So the first thing I wanted to ask is the difference between percentage-based damage and regular damage. We talked about this earlier a little bit with Kubie before the show. But I was like, oh, that's kind of like a stupid question, right? Because I know it's obviously, they take a percent of your health instead of, just regular damage. But then Kubie added a few more points to what's good about percentage-based damage if you're facing a 2-tank comp, right? So go ahead, Kubie. Oh, I have a cat. Oh, hello, kitty.
percentage-based damage is kind of unique in HOTS, whereas it ignores armor and damage reduction effects for the most part. Things that absorb damage, like Urel's Ardent Defender, that will absorb percentage-based damage, but like it's really just damage immunities that keep you from being damaged by percentage-based damage dealers. Like Malthael, Tychus, Leorix W, to name a few abilities.
So as a percentage-based, damage dealer, and say you do in fact have a double tank, or no, let's just say that, do you want to be constantly trying to chunk down the tank?
It depends on the situation, really. Like, with let's use like Malthael for example. Let's say he has his level 10 last rites. It really just depends on whoever your team has decided is the kill target. It's if you have the ability to chunk their tank down enough to kill them with last rites, then yeah. But it really just depends on who's made themselves a target. And
Okay.
if you have a hero with percentage-based damage, anyone can be a target.
One example. What was the game where the Muradin? It was Tempo was playing against. I want to say, Ballistics or Tempest or someone. And they kept getting picks on Murd. There was a mid-season brawl game where Muradin kept getting annihilated by a Korean pick comp that had featuring Malthael, where Malthael would drop last rites, and then they had like Genji plus like Li Ming or something. I'm forgetting. It was a game on Sky Temple, and so they would all just blow Muradin up, and it's a lot easier to get through 2/3 of Muradin's health pool than the entire health pool, especially when he's popping Avatar. And then last rites would just keep finishing Muradin off. The Malthael was getting a ton of value.
Yeah.
What are some other percentage-based damage dealers other than Malthael?
Tychus with
Tychus is
his
a big
trait.
one.
Yeah.
People used to go like stun tank into Malfurion route into Tychus just sitting still and taking 2/3 of a person's HP with the bigger they are.
So, are Malthael and Tychus really the only ones? What about the heroes with what's the talent that?
Giant Killer?
Yeah, Giant Killer. What about Giant Killer talent? Does that do kind of the same thing, or?
It does kind of the same thing. It's just not as powerful as the characters that have it built into their kit.
It's just Giant Killer's kind of just like added pressure to whoever you're attacking. To be honest, it's not really like I would say like it does a obviously percentage-based damage to a tank, but it's not like super huge difference, I would say.
To bring in some of this math perspective, so in general, the really beefiest of tanks have double-ish HP of some of the squishiest heroes. So say you're playing James Raynor and you pick up Giant Killer on 13. If you're hitting a Diablo, you're getting about twice as much value out of your talent as compared to if you're hitting, say, Lunara. It's still mostly just kind of a generic damage boost that moderately helps you chew through some of the beefier heroes.
Okay.
Talking about the really big ones like Tychus or Malthael that you really start talking about like this is like dominating. Leoric also has percentage hit points.
Yeah.
It's a spell, so it's less constant, but it's really good for helping him win lanes against beefy heroes like Blaze.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
It's mostly used to help him win lane. Like, it's barely even really a thing outside of lane. Like, yeah, sure, you get hurt by it if you're a tank or whatever, but for the most part, you're just assuming that damage is coming in anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Or your dodge god, which can be a thing too. Dodge the spooky hand.
so obviously you don't want to take, double tank comp if they have either a Malthael or a Tychus or.
I mean, you can.
Not necessarily.
Yeah,
You can still play around it.
you could, yeah. Okay, Bella,
Like-
you're not helping.
I mean, I'm trying to be honest. I don't like to. Yeah, 100% kegs. You got it.
Wait, what? No, I want you to be honest.
She's talking about her cat.
No, I'm talking about my cat. No, not you, Shot. Bella was like digging her claws into my leg. Not you,
You're not helping, Shot.
I definitely thought that's what she was saying. I'm like, wow, all right, fuck.
I said Bella, you're not helping. Oh my goodness. Okay, so moving on. Oh wait, no, go ahead, Matt. Chaos. I want to call you Math of the Storm. I don't know why, but go ahead. Or was it Kubie?
I think. Okay, so there's a couple other things going on. For one, Leoric actually used to have a lot more percentage damage before his rework. But I think the important thing to remember when you're going up against Tychus is that no matter what, Tychus is only hitting one person at a time. So if he was just going to be hitting the Muradin anyways, because the Muradin's diving the Tychus, then it doesn't really matter how tanky your secondary frontliner is, because Tychus won't be hitting them in the first place, because he's going to be spending most of the team fight focusing the Muradin or whatever. I'm trying to there's very few abilities that do area percentage health damage. There's the level 20 Diablo talent that nobody picks. There's the level 7 Seared Flesh for Kael'thas, and then otherwise let's see. Oh, Zul's level 20 ult used to. The Poison Nova upgrade. There's very little area effect, which means that there's diminishing returns. Picking up some percentage hit points like a Tychus to burn down a Muradin through Avatar is really great, but the secondary frontliner, sometimes Tychus just isn't going to be hitting them in a fight.
Yeah, he might not be able to get to him or whatnot if they're positioning correctly, right? Or I don't know. Okay, yeah. It's as simple as that. Yeah.
I would say if you see that your opponent chose a pretty beefy comp that doesn't have too high a burst damage, I would say Malthael with Tormented Souls pressures that pretty hard.
Tormented Souls is one I forgot.
Mm-hmm. You go in there, you start auto attacking them, which does a cleave that applies his Reaper's Mark to everything it hits, and then just Tormented Souls, and it chunks them pretty hard.
So I thought Tormented Souls was not the pick. No, you can't pick Tormented Souls. You have to pick Last Rites now.
No, that's not true at all.
That's what everybody tells me.
For the record, Last Rites is about 10 times more fun in my estimation than Tormented Souls.
Well, the thing with Tormented Souls is it's more of a niche pick.
Yeah, it's very difficult to be able to tell somebody, be like, this is where Tormented Souls would be good, because it's just it's so weird, and it's Hero League, it doesn't really work out all that often, because a lot of Hero League is just all right, we're gonna fight, and the fight's gonna be really quick, and one team's gonna lose, instead of just I'm gonna sustain and slowly kill them all because of percent damage, and my team's gonna protect me that entire time. Oh, okay.
I definitely dive in. I used to be really good with Malthael when he first came out, but then I just get too impatient, and I definitely dive in a lot with him because I think, okay, I can heal myself. This is gonna be good. I can sustain through this, and then no, they just stun me, and then I just blow up.
I think another thing.
Go ahead.
My experience in Hero League is that heroes that are good at getting picks are really valuable. That's why Diablo and Garrosh have been such high brand priorities in Hero League for forever, because you just get the pick. And I think that playing a very deliberate, everyone's going to go in at the same time. We're all going to use all of our AoE abilities at the time. I know Tempest Storm ran this Circles of Death composition with Malthael with Tormented Souls plus Kerrigan with Maelstrom or whatever. And this was a very everyone had to work together to execute this comp. By comparison, I think that Last Rites is really good because you get the CDR, and late game people will just randomly feed sometimes, and having Last Rite to secure those random picks, and then have it up again for your 5v4 can be really valuable.
Yeah, I went Last Rites, and I got some good kills, but I died a lot. Whatever. All right, so let's move on. I'm having PTSD flashbacks. Okay, so my question is, how much of an advantage does a team have by knowing each camp, boss spawn, and objective time? Like, do you have a huge advantage over your enemy team if you know every single time something will spawn?
I think this got a lot better with the 2018 update, where they normalized a lot of the timers. Almost all maps, the objective starts at 3 minutes. There's a couple maps where it's 1 minute 30, like Braxis. And then standardizing these warning timers and placing on the mini map the pre-warning. So like you cap a tribute, and like 10 or 15 seconds later or whatever, you see where the next tribute will spawn, even if you don't quite know when it will spawn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's done a lot to help. In terms of people who are just kind of casually playing the game, but without them totally getting screwed on objectives. But I think that for the very deliberate player who is playing at a very high level, knowing camp timers, like when you can when you're playing Sonya in the solo top lane on Sky Temple or on the solo bot lane on Sky Temple, and knowing when you should be rotate, or say you're playing Greymane or whoever, knowing how long it takes for you to clear the camp when you're level 4 and you rotate to that night camp or that giant camp, and then being able to then perfectly time your rotation to the objective, so you show up right when the objective starts, everyone wants to start fighting, and then you get a bunch of merc value, can single-handedly swing Hero League games.
See, that's like that's like the optimal like game right there. Like, I know exactly when everything's gonna happen. It's gonna take me 0.25 seconds to get this camp. Not that fast, but it's gonna take me this long, and then like it's gonna take me. It's gonna
play that hero.
I know, right? Well, no, wait, Brightwing. If she has her pay, if she can pay it, it's going to take her 0.25 seconds. Yeah. Oh, what shot? Anyways.
Sometimes felt that fast.
Yeah. I mean, so.
Bribe stacks. Lol.
Bribe stacks. That's what I said. Bribe stacks. So, that's the one thing, like, I feel like being able to know, like, say, Sonya level 4, like you said, Math, is... being able to know how long it's going to take me to get that camp, because there's sometimes when I want to get camps before let's say on Battlefield of Eternity, before the angels spawn, I want to get that camp. They give you 23 seconds before the actual warning. How long's the warning? I forget.
I think the warning is almost always 30 seconds.
30 seconds? Okay. So yeah. Normally, I want to get, obviously, the shaman camp right when that 30-second timer starts. And being able to know how long it's going to take me, is it going to take me all the 30 seconds to get that camp? Like, being able to know that type of math behind my character would just, I feel like, help so many people.
Freaking out.
Shot just pulled out a drink out of nowhere. That looks really good.
I had my wonderful delivery woman.
Deliverly.
I have a really good example for this though, because like I think a timing that a lot of players really understand is when to get the shaman camp on Battlefield of Eternity. That one you can almost always like time it perfectly if you're paying attention to the warning. It's usually like right at 2:30 you want to go and start that camp, and you want to cap it at like 5 to 10 seconds for when the objective is actually spawning, because that gives it time to walk into the lane and start pressuring as you're trying to fight for the objective, and that makes the enemy team think of, oh, we need to go send someone to clear this, but if we do that, then they're going to start doing damage to our immortal. And like you'll see in HGC, like both teams will cap at exactly the same time, and then they'll clear, and then they'll start fighting.
Yeah, so. It doesn't seem like, when I watch HGC, I just see them like do everything perfectly, and I'm just like, okay, well, those camps don't really need to be there. Like, what? Can't they just like brawl it out in the middle? But like, I've noticed a lot in my Hero League games that If we are behind on the Immortal and we weren't able to get our Shaman camp right before the Angels spawned, we'll get it at halftime. Like, we'll get it at halftime, and then, they'll have to, be wary of the Shaman camp pushing while they're trying to chunk down or defend, their angel or whatnot. And it seemed to work. It seemed to save our butts because we were able to get the Immortal because they freak out because, oh no, a Shaman camp's pushing, blah, blah, blah. So
that's actually a really good strategy if the Immortal is on their side. So it forces someone to go down and rotate, and then that's a 5v4, and you have a window while they're clearing that camp to go and do damage to the Immortal.
Right.
Or push them out of theirs.
Yeah, because I noticed that, like, if they get their camp first, I will immediately go up and I will tell my team to get the camp, our camp. Mm-hmm. And I will go up and, obviously kill their camp, and then that puts ours, in the pushing, being able to push rather than, the two camps fighting each other and ours potentially losing and them, getting the advantage. So yeah, I always try to kill their camp first before we get our camp, because then our camp, has the push, doesn't take any damage, and then we can focus comfortably on getting one of the Immortals. So yeah, I've noticed that's been working. So here's a question that I don't know if I wrote down correctly. Let me know if you understand exactly what I'm saying. So in terms of catapults on your core, I saw that Lost Vikings video. Did you guys see that where they stopped the creeps? Yeah. So I have a question. So how do you know when you absolutely, like, say a catapult's on your core, how much damage does a catapult do to your core? And how do you know if you need to back or if you can safely let the minions kill that catapult and you can just keep getting, whatever camp you were getting or objective or whatnot?
Well, katas scale, so you're going to have to...
It's a little bit. So, like, at 20 minutes, katas are chunking for, like, 4.5% of core HP.
Wow.
But if you get remember that core HP is when it says 100%, that's 100% of the life value. Shields are worth another 50% on top of that.
Okay.
And catapults only attack once every 3 seconds. So overall, they do a lot of DPS, but it's specifically when you start seeing 2, 3, 4 catapults that you really need to start being scared. One catapult by itself is not going to end the game. Unless, of course, there's a false stat who flies in and backdoors, and it's Volskaya, and
just Avatar clones, and then it's the freest game of their life.
Oh no.
I was actually just thinking of the Volskaya game for Fnatic versus Tempo in groups. But, anyways...
Sorry,
but it's
PTSD kicked in.
Yeah, but then if you start talking, if it's just a long game, like it's Tomb and both teams have a lot of clear, or you're playing quick match or unranked draft, and for some reason you've got Garden of Terror, and that map just doesn't end, and it's 30 and starts to be 30 minutes. Catapults start to do like 6% of core health per swing, which starts to mean that even a single catapult gets really threatening. Plus, also at that stage of the game, catapults almost insta clear waves, and so it's you need to also keep track of game time. Where like if they get a fast keep. Like say a 12, 15 minute keep right around the 16 or 20 tier, then that's not too big of, like you do need to clear it, but it's not going to be super threatening. Catapults are really only threatening post 20 minutes.
And they sit outside of the range of the tower, which is definitely terrifying. And a lot of like my one Hero League game, I will never forget it ever to this day. I was on Sylvanas. This was a long time ago. Sylvanas was like still, OP. I was on Sylvanas and I don't know what my team was doing. We were getting objective or something. And I had to go back because we had 3 catapults on our core. And we still lost. I don't know how, I don't remember. But I cleared all the catapults and we didn't get the objective. It must have been on Tribute because we didn't need that objective because it obviously wasn't the final tribute to get. And one of my teammates got super mad at me for going back and killing the catapults. And he said the tower, the core will kill it for us. They don't do that much damage to the core. And at first I thought he was trolling, and I was like, haha, yeah, that's funny. And he was like, no, and he called me a few choice words and was like, why did you do that? We lost the tribute. And I'm like, if I wouldn't have done that, they sit outside the range of the core. Our core would have died.
Wait, so this is for a tribute that wasn't even like the third tribute?
Yeah. So it wasn't.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that's why I was obviously.
That man's insane.
I was obviously upset. And it still haunts me to this day. But yeah, so I think a lot of people don't realize that the catapults sit outside the range of the core, and they can just literally chunk down anything. And in terms of scaling, so for anybody who doesn't understand, what exactly does scaling mean?
Okay, so there's two different systems of scaling. So heroes gain scaling with every level that your team gets. They gain 4% more stats on average.
Does that mean just regular base damage or also ability damage? Like auto attack damage?
Okay, so for a hero, that's everything. So they gain 4% more health. They gain up from their previous level. You gain 4% more attack damage, 4% more ability damage. All of those like damage / health numbers, 4% more healing, whatever. There are abilities that scale at different than 4%. It's this really weird list. There's a little bit of rhyme and reason. So, for example, Probius, because his kit is naturally really good in lane, but his kit is also naturally worse because he's a builder in the late game. He actually has 5% scaling. So, relatively speaking, he actually gets stronger as the game goes, but that's balanced out by the game dynamics, which are going to exert more pressure on his pylons and his photon cannons and his whole setup nature. Make it worse for him as the game goes on.
You're so much nicer than me.
Shots like Probius sucks.
It hides his building nature. It hides the fact he's a crap character.
Come on, man.
So I think a really good example of this type of scaling.
Concept. He's just not like strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not like crapping all over the character design.
A really good example of this type of is that if you actually go back to the most recent balance patch that was 3.5 weeks ago now, had the Zagara changes. One of the things they did is they actually dropped a lot of her base of the base health of her summons, but increased the scaling on them from 3 to 4%.
Okay.
And so that means that her summons were a lot. So for my Math of the Storm on that one. I found that, say, the Hydralisk actually had less HP up until level 12, and then after level 12, Hydras had more HP than pre-patch. So it's most of the scaling differences are to balance out natural oddities in play style. For example, Lunara's poison scales at 5% because poison type effects are really good in lane because you throw one spear at the person and you're just trying to out-sustain them. Well, late game team fights happen much faster, and so the poison needs to be stronger. By contrast, there are some that are just kind of weird. So, for example, Cho'Gall actually scales at 4.5%. On his health and basic attack damage, and then on Gall's Q and W and Twisting Nether, those actually all scale at 5% for some unknown reason.
That's terrifying.
But what it amounts to is that in combination with Cho's level 16 Unstoppable talent, if you let Cho'Gall get to level 16 or level 20, you just kind of start to lose the game because Cho'Gall becomes an absolute monster.
Yeah, it's like terrifying. So don't let him get to level 20, basically, like in a Zebo.
And so to put it in a little bit more context, every 0.5% scaling difference from 4% is worth 10%, plus or minus 10%. So like a 4.5% scaling character is 10% stronger by level 20.
Dang.
4% scaling. And so like, if it's 5% scaling, they're 20% stronger.
It's like these are things that like I would never even freaking think of. Like, so okay, I do have a few questions though. So Diablo scaling with his souls, does he get how? So how like his health is significantly higher when he gets 100 souls. Yeah. Does that health scale, or does it? I mean, it has to, right?
Yeah. So it's just he gains up to 40% more HP based on how many souls he has.
Okay, so at end game, if he hits level 20 with 100 souls, how much health does he have? Do we know?
I mean, like
right off the top of your head, go.
I'm expecting.
I have it in one of my spreadsheets. But
is he as scary? Is he as scary as Cho'Gall, or is he like a step down from Cho'Gall?
No, Diablo with max, even at level 20, Diablo has a ton more HP than Cho'Gall. Cho'Gall's HP actually isn't. Cho'Gall's HP isn't actually so crazy high as it was when he released, because when they did his rework and they added his I don't know if you've played Cho'Gall recently, but he's got a switching trait, Ogre Hide and Ogre Rage. Mm-hmm. Ogre Hide is it's Cho's trait, it's 25 armor, but Gall can deactivate that to gain 25% spell power. So a lot of Cho'Gall's actual survivability comes from the armor, which is also why he works really well with really strong healers like Ana and Ariel, because that armor also effectively multiplies their healing, because you not only have to do damage to counteract the healing, but you actually have to do more because that health is worth more because of the armor. If that makes sense.
Yes, that does make sense. Surprisingly, to me, that does make sense. Now, I have a question in terms of healers.
Yeah.
Is there any? So now, forgive me, I'm bad at math and I'm not very savvy, but that's why we have you on this show, because I have a lot of questions. So are there any healers that do percentage-based healing? Is that Ariel or?
Oh, yeah.
Straza is the one example.
Oh, it's Straza.
There's a few. Okay, so Healing Totem, which a bunch of healers used to have, and now very few have, but I think like Rhaegar still has one.
Yeah, Rhaegar has one. And Karazim with Spirit Ally or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Healing Totem and its variants does percentage hit points in an area. So that actually incentivizes your entire team to be very beefy.
So the percentage-based healing, does that, depending on, I'm assuming depending on the hero, does that do more healing than, like, say, a burst heal from Rhaegar's, or not a burst heal, but a heal from Rhaegar's Q?
It can.
It can.
It can.
Okay. Go ahead.
Rhaegar's generally considered very good with tanks. Not only so, Ancestral will massively overheal most squishies, even if they're at 1 HP. Well, if you throw Ancestral on a Diablo, it'll heal him for like
half.
Yeah, it feels like nothing.
But that depends on if he's at 100 souls or not, right?
Yeah.
But so Ancestral is actually a flat amount. I think it's like 2,000 hit points or something. Yeah, but and that number scales as the game goes on. But by contrast, Rhaegar's level 13 Earth Shield, which is what I mean, Rhaegar's like the one healer I don't play, but that is something like a 70-80% pick rate. Kubie, I remember.
Yeah.
I know you play more Rhaegar than I do. You might be able to fill in more on like why everyone picks Earth Shield, but Earth Shield actually shields for a percentage of it's like 12% of the target's maximum hit points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, Earthshield. I mean, the thing is like Rhaegar's Q doesn't really heal that much anyway. So for Rhaegar, a lot of his power and healing comes through protecting against burst damage through Ancestral and Earthshield. So that's usually why you don't see that. Because I don't remember when they did it, but they rebalanced his Q to be so the main targeted hits and the bouncing all do the same amount of healing. So it kind of devalues like using it as like a single target heal. As opposed to like just a general like, okay, I'm going to pick my team up a little bit. A lot of Rhaegar's power is just from negating burst damage.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why you take Earthshield more.
So, this is going to be a little bit of a more complicated explanation, but the reason why everything works at it's called exponential scaling, but it's a percentage of the previous value each level, is because it keeps relations constant. Have any of you guys played D&D before?
No.
Yes, I have.
So the way
Nerd.
So the way
I quit both my campaigns.
Go ahead, Chaos.
Yeah, so the way D&D in D&D, if you build a fighter, you have say like 12 hit points at first level, and then you're going to gain like 5 hit points each level. And so it is so that's linear scaling. That's what every other game in the genre uses, like League of Legends or Dota or whatever. Is you have your character has a flat amount of base HP, and then you gain some amount each level. The problem is that it actually can lead relationships in terms of say how many hits it takes to kill someone to change as you gain levels, because if the scaling and the base values are not proportional. The other reason is that originally Heroes of the Storm actually worked like this, and then they changed in 2015 with Cho'Gall's release. The reason for that is that it means that low-level stat gains are actually much more overall impactful than high-level stat gains. Because at low level, if you're gaining if you start with 12 HP and you gain 5 HP per level, when you go to second level, you're gaining like 40% more HP or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a relatively high level, and you've got 100 HP, and you still only gain 5 HP. That's only like a 5% increase. And so what it meant is that gaining is that in lane, say you pulled ahead, say someone on the other side of the map fast cleared their wave, and you pull ahead to level 2 for like 10, 12, 15 seconds ahead of your opponent, you'd have like 40% more hit points, 40% more damage than your opponent, and so you could just massively bully them for 10, 12 seconds and gain a huge leg up in lane. By contrast, late game levels felt like they did nothing because the net impact was like 3 or 4% extra hit points and damage, and it just didn't mean anything. And so that's why we have exponential scaling.
Dang.
Why scaling in Heroes of the Storm is way more complicated, because there are some people on the team who are very good at math and figured out this problem, and so switched to the exponential scaling model. Now, the reason why D&D does the linear scaling model is it's really simple to implement. Understanding that you gain, when you're playing with pen and paper, you want something that's really easy to understand, and so you can just, do it rather than have to pull out a calculator.
Yeah.
No one actually wants to do math.
except for Chaos. Chaos is like, I love this shit.
Yeah.
I mean, being able to just know this can give you like a huge advantage and to exploit the enemy team in like another level. Like, this is like, okay, Shinobi likes that. Shinobi, I see you eating. What are you eating? I want that burger. I see her.
So the second type of scaling that's in Heroes of the Storm is what I have in that NPC stat spreadsheet that's linked in the Alterac Pass article. And NPCs actually do scale in this kind of linear fashion, where they have a base amount of HP, and then every minute they gain more hit points, more damage. And that is the scaling. It's technically linear ramping, so every 5 minutes the amount they gain per minute increases. The end result is that NPCs end up becoming much easier to kill as the game goes on. So you know how like most heroes cannot take the level 4, cannot take Night Camp at level 4, but there are a few heroes like Sonya and Greymane that can do it, or Gazlo, or everyone will start listing off their favorite specialists like Sylvanas.
Yeah. What do you have against Sylvanas?
Everything.
Just saying, she's just an example of a hero that can easily take mercenary camps and such at low levels. By contrast, they in the late game it actually becomes much easier to, because basically NPCs scale in just your typical linear fashion. You draw a straight line on the graph, while heroes scale exponentially, so it's actually an upward curving line. Got it. Cool. So as the game goes on, heroes take off and move away, and that's why that 20-minute boss goes down like it's nothing. While when your team tries to take that 7-minute boss because you just picked up level 10 on Sky Temple and you're trying to push the advantage, sometimes you screw up and the tank dies because the boss was doing way more damage than your healer was ready for. Right. Huh. That's crazy. Now I'm gonna see all these math numbers flying around while I play the game. So Sharp One had a question. He said, maybe discuss some visual markers for numbers, like can I kill this person based on their health, and knowing the damage number you can put out in a burst combo, etc. So that's kind of what you said about being level 2 and them still being behind a level, and you can just kind of bully them for as however many seconds it takes for them to get level 2, right? It's a lot harder now. Again, that specific early game example is a lot harder now since they switched the scaling systems. But some of that it's a lot of practice. Kel'Thuzad is a really great example of this. You just need to grind out games on Kel'Thuzad, not only to hit the skill shots. Chains is not the hardest skill shot ever, but it's difficult enough. But the bigger thing is that you just need to get a better sense of okay, my full combo when I only have the 15 stacks of my blight at level 7 can kill these heroes, while if I manage to get all 30 stacks of blight, I can kill these additional heroes. And it's easy for me to write an article that explains all of these breakpoints, but in my experience, it's really hard for people to internalize moving from an article descriptively at these breakpoints you can kill these people, versus just kind of getting a feel for what does that extra 75% spell power on Kel'Thuzad actually feel like. Yeah. Okay, so how and then I'm sure Kubie Chot can say a bit more about playing mages and getting a feel for some of those breakpoints. I'm not a huge mage player.
Yeah, for your example, Kel'Thuzad, there's definitely a point in time where you're just oh, I'm a real character now after you get stacked. Yeah. A lot of people actually say that in higher level. They're wait, hold on, I'm not a character yet. Please wait until I'm stacked. Once you're stacked, you just become a significantly different character entirely, and you just start bodying everything, and you can still one-shot people with your full combo before you're stacked, like you said, against squishies or whatever. Not necessarily one-shot. You'd have to take them from half HP, but there's a dramatic jump in power on Kel'Thuzad for your specific example.
So the other thing is also keeping track of talents. Level 16 was it Hungering Cold? It's the one that gives bonus damage after your after your W roots a target or whatever.
The good one.
That one is a stupidly large power spike for Kel'Thuzad, where that goes from him when you have rule of thumb is you can basically 100 to 0 most squishies in the early game, even without even without being fully stacked. But when you start getting fully stacked, then that's when you start one-shotting people like Thrall, who are 3% tankier than say a Vala.
Mm.
And then it's when you get whatever it is. I'm sure someone in chat can remember what the name of the talent is. At level 16, that you start being able to one-shot people like, the Garrosh or the Johanna, or, people who, assuming that for those two characters, their defensive cooldowns need to be down. But that's when you really start being able to one-shot even like tanks.
Yeah.
Kel'Thuzad's scaling in particular is pretty insane once he gets stacked.
Yeah, that's why that's like a major reason why you don't really see him in competitive all that often, because it's really easy to stop him from stacking and from scaling. You just don't fight around him, and you just kind of ignore him and split push. And so a lot of times teams will lose the game before Kel'Thuzad can actually come online, as they say.
Mm.
So they just okay, we're just not going to pick Kel'Thuzad because it's just too difficult to actually get him to start doing the things that we need him to do.
Right.
You have games where you blind pick Kel'Thuzad into quick match and you get stacked by level 5 and you feel like this unstoppable monster as you mow everyone down.
Feels good, man.
So I should start playing Kel'Thuzad then. There we go. All right, so we have some questions in chat that I want to answer super quick. How exactly do the grave golems scale on haunted mines?
God, it's hideously complicated.
All right, Chaos, that's all you do.
My best actual advice is there's this guy called Ollie, and he's got a website. I think you go like Ollie's Mods or something. Anyways, he's got a spreadsheet that actually goes through and does the full explanation. Typically, it's each. Okay, so there's a time scaling, and then there's also a skull scaling. The skull scaling is actually it's kind of like Diablo Souls, where 100 skulls is something like 300% more hit points and 300% more damage. The reason why 100 skulls feels so much dramatically more powerful than 50 skulls is that hit points and damage kind of multiply, because the hit points lets the golem live longer to make more swings, and each of those swings does more damage.
Oh, geez.
And so it's why it's kind of this quadratic scaling, even if each individual stat is linear, because you go from, say, killing the golem in 20 seconds to killing the golem in 40 seconds, and each swing is doing twice as much damage.
Yeah.
You start, and so it ends up being this really dramatic impact, even if you just look at an individual one and it's linear. But yeah, anyways, the golem. The important thing to remember about the golem is that the golem actually snapshots its strength when the 60th skull is collected.
Oh, so all you really need to do is get 60 skulls.
So what I mean by snapshot is in terms of the time. So there's a couple other maps that have this effect. Infernal Shrines is another one. I think it snapshots at like 20 or 30 skeletal minions. But basically it prevents you from sandbagging, where say you collect 99 skulls or you collect 30. You see this a lot in competitive, where people on Infernal Shrines, where people will kill 39 of the minions and then go around on the map and do other things.
Yeah.
One person by the shrine, so that way if the other team tries to take the shrine, you just kill the one extra skeletal minion and you're good, and you get the Punisher. But it freezes the time. It freezes the time snapshot, so that way you're not. So if you do that, wait around strategy, you actually miss out on some potential strength of the Punisher or the Grave Golem.
So you don't want to do that then.
Well, okay, so you do that to get mercenary camps and other advantages.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, does it... Okay.
But it doesn't benefit your golem. So it's like, if you're doing it just to make a golem stronger, you're actually wasting your time. But if you're getting mercs and stuff around the map, at least you're doing something. So you're getting value on both regards. Also, I'm pretty sure they made that change just because of, when old haunted mines used to be in competitive map pool meta, people would straight never they would get 99 skulls and literally for the rest of the game, no one would go into the mines until the team was ready to pick up the skull and try to end the game, because like it used to not snapshot, and so it would just be like, okay, I collect 39 skulls, we wait until 30 minutes into the game, then we cap them, and then we have the most monstrous golem in the entire world, and I'm pretty sure they changed it just for that purpose.
I think they fixed that when they were doing all the Infernal Shrines fixes in late 2015.
Maybe, yeah, true.
I don't remember specifically though. I wasn't.
I just remember golems being insane, like a long time ago.
Yeah.
Was not.
So done that with the rework, the mines rework.
Maybe
in 2016.
So Raka has a question. He says, when the snapshot happens, does it also happen for your enemies? Like if a snapshot, like if I snapshot ours and then delay 10 minutes, will that objective be useless for both teams then?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
it's total.
It just snapshots the complete power of that golem at a certain scaling point.
Interesting.
It's like, okay, this is how far it would have scaled if it like got finished at this point. So now this golem will only be at this scaling level no matter when it's capped.
So Sharp One is kind of continuing on that question. Is that a single team gets 60 or just 60 total collected? So if a team has 59, 60 total. Okay. Yeah. So that's interesting. I noticed that like a lot in my quick matches that sometimes you don't even need to get the golems. You can just push. And even if they get like 100 golem, it's like whatever.
It's practically the meta now on that map. Like
just to not get the golem.
Yeah.
Don't go into the mines. Like why?
Yeah,
it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
I have a lot of negative things to say about Haunted Mines. It's easily my least favorite map.
Easily a lot of people's least favorite map, to be fair.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I've had people argue with me that Garden of Terror or Blackheart's Bay is worse.
Well, Garden of Terror is just annoying because you have to run around and chase the flower, and it's just like, come on, just let me hit you.
At least it's not the hit and run flower from like ages ago.
So bad.
The hit. Wait, the hit and run flower?
Where you would put a bulb down and all it would do it would just like slowly suck the health from your forts and towers. So you just put a bulb down, leave, go to the far end of the map, put another bulb down, leave.
I forgot about that. I forgot about that. The bulb did damage. Dang, I forgot about that.
It was the most annoying thing in the world.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Based on the current numbers, how do you think the meta will shift in the future? For example, 2-healer meta way back in the day, they reduced the numbers on the healers, and now you only ever see like 1 healer per team. So, and same with like double tank, what type of, will that type of comp ever like go away? Eventually, if they like nerf tanks, I don't know how it works.
So my current take on the meta is that there's functionally 2 metas. There is the Hero League meta and there's the HGC meta. Nope. The HGC meta involves is in large part centered around the fact that people like Snitch and Rich are like when you give them Genji, they do really disgusting things that you didn't quite realize were possible. In Hero League, you give I actually am kind of excited when the enemy team picks Genji, because even like, so I'm a Diamond player. Even in Diamond, I think the other pieces of this are that in HGC they're better able to coordinate. So, for example, I think that in Hero League, Combustion is actually the better ultimate for Blades, but in HGC, it's no question. I think Bunker is absolutely the better. Is that in Hero League, usually your team won't be on full comms, and even if they are, communication is kind of mediocre. And so people are really bad about getting in the bunker, about Blaze saving the bunker for a specific thing, about getting out of the bunker when they need to. There's a couple other examples I can think of where HGC allows for so much more coordination that it is just a different meta game than Hero League.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about like raw skill level differences. I'm just talking about what communication means.
Right. That totally makes sense.
And so, for example, I think in HGC, we're seeing a whole lot of Blaze and Sonya in the offlane because they're able to at least attempt at surviving Genji ganks. In Hero League, I don't think you really need to actively worry about Genji ganks. And so I think you're a lot more able to pick heroes like, say, Alterac in the offlane, who are very good in the 1v1. Or Zagar is another great example. Both heroes are very good in the 1v1, but are really vulnerable to ganks because of their playstyle.
You're like blowing my mind right now. I'm just like thinking of like I'm so many things that like I've noticed but don't really know why this certain thing happens or what. Yeah. So this is ugh.
Well, here's another example. Like in competitive play, you'll see like a hyper carry style that usually this is usually like a style you only see competitive. So it's like you have one damage dealer, and then you have like either like 2 tanks, 2 supports, 3 tanks, 1 support sort of deal, where your entire Tassadar, where you're just go ahead.
To say Reddit, Tassadar is useless. Please rework. Competitive. Tassadar is broken. Please get rid of him.
Yeah, exactly. Like you'll see heroes that you wouldn't normally want on the same team because of what they do to enable this one damage dealer to just absolutely wreck the enemy team without any fear of dying. And like in Hero League, you won't ever see that because of communication.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, this is not even like throwing shade like, people in Hero League are bad, HGC pros are good. It's just HGC pros scrim 8 hours a day together, and that means they actually like anticipate people's movements. The supports know exactly how deep their carry is going to go. The carry has so much experience, like knowing exactly when supports prefer to use their cooldowns, like all of these sorts of things. And that's just communication.
Yep.
Okay, so I don't even know if this is relevant, but I had a question. So I've noticed that me playing on Kerrigan, it's very much more uncomfortable for me to do her combo when I start on the left side of the screen for like a game. So I was thinking about, is there a statistic, I don't know if you know this is just something fun, of numbers of wins according to what side your team starts on? Because I know for me, like being uncomfortable doing her combo when I start on the left side and constantly going from left to right or right to left, whatever, however you look at it. Do certain people execute their abilities better when starting on a certain side?
The map this matters the most for is Alterac Pass, where I think on certain servers, the Horde is just going to play a lot better on average, even though the Alliance tends to have a lot more players. I'm sure some of the rest of you who have played a bunch of WoW can back me up on this.
Wait, is that legit, or are you trolling me?
There's a lot of memes related to which faction is better in WoW PvP. To my knowledge, there is no solid numbers about which side is better. In HGC, blue side tends to have a higher win rate, but there's a lot of weird factors that go into that because blue side is usually the higher seeded team. Blue side usually starts off the series with first pick, and first pick usually has a higher win rate. But to my understanding, it's within the bounds of margin of error for regular play.
See, that's so interesting to me. Like, blue side has a higher win rate. Why? Because it's blue. Better color. No, I don't know. Like, that's so interesting to me.
Wait, isn't any side that you're on blue?
HGC, obviously, I'm talking.
No, this is hurting my brain.
Okay, so I think that Heroes of the Storm does way, way better than other MOBAs at this because so this is getting to a little bit of geometry, but there's a couple different ways you can do symmetry, and a lot of Heroes of the Storm for one, Heroes of the Storm maps are going left to right, which means that the screen share is more balanced, because other MOBAs have their maps going from bottom left to top right. There's actually because the UI is at the bottom versus you can see a lot more at the top of the screen. That creates a big difference. Also, Legends and Dota at least have are not perfectly rotational symmetrical. In League of Legends, the only difference is Dragon versus Baron. But in Dota, there's actually substantive differences between Radiant and Dire in terms of the map layout.
Huh.
People talk a lot about how teams actually draft different strategies depending on whether they're on Radiant or Dire for a given game.
Yeah. I totally forgot that League, you start in the top right or bottom left corner.
Yeah, always.
That makes a really big difference. I think, honestly,
is that better?
No, that's absolutely worse. Heroes of the Storm actually intelligently applied a bunch of ideas. The reason why League and Dota did that is because both of them were at the max size for Dota. So League copied Dota. Dota, the reason they did that is they were actually at the max size in the Warcraft 3 world editor on total map size, and they wanted to use up as much of that as possible. And so the easiest way to do that, because the dimensions, they're at the max of a rectangle, is that the easiest way to do that was put one base in the bottom left, the other base in the top right, and then use up as much of the rest of the map as possible.
Huh. Okay, mind blown again. So
for your Kerrigan bit, my best answer would be just take a look at like your setup or whatever to see if like moving right to left, you're seeing like your elbow bumping into like something nearby versus like when you're bringing your elbow in closer to your body. So look at like how you're moving your mouse and like the rest of your setup around you, because that might be why, say, moving left to right, you're having an easier time versus right to left, you're having a harder time.
Interesting. All right. So now that we're talking about maps, let's talk Alterac Pass. I have a question from NupTup on Twitter. He said, "What are your thoughts on Alterac Pass chariot objective? Are they too strong? And what are the generals? Oh, what about the generals for cores? Are they too weak?" Just basically, what are your thoughts on Alterac Pass? Like, I know I've been getting a lot of people coming in and asking me, what I think about the map, but I've only been able to play on it twice so far. And like a lot of people say that, I mean, obviously when I played on it, the objective did seem very, 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 very strong to the point where we lost almost all of our entire mid, tower and our bottom tower just for the first objective. It was insane. We definitely could not win that game since we lost the objective.
Out of it is that it's a new map, and so people need to learn how to defend. Maps are really, really complicated, and I am very hesitant to pass judgment on the map until we've got at least, like a month worth of people playing on it, because like playing with or against heroes, even in 2 weeks, we see big differences, and heroes are so much simpler than maps.
So that's what I think too. I feel like everybody's so quick to judge a new hero or a new map, and like I know Irel is not, the most impactful character, but she's still strong. She's strong for me in lower ranks. Like she's insane. You can totally like, I'm sorry, Shot. She is. I have won so many games on her in lower ranks just because I can save my teammates with her. And that's all that it is in lower ranks, is just trying to help your team not to die when they make like stupid decisions. I'm not saying that everybody makes stupid decisions. I'm just saying
everybody makes mistakes.
Everybody has those days.
My definition of there's going to be just a lot of mistakes. Okay. Shot. Can I just hold on? Shot.
Yeah.
Just quoted Hannah Montana. Can we just?
Like
can we just?
Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Everybody gets that way.
Yeah.
Right,
so I will say, one mechanic that I highlighted in my article that a lot of people missed because it's not in the Battleground preview video is that the objective actually so the cavalry units actually gain 5 armor per hero in their aura. Which means that if you 5-man push on top of the cavalry get really stupidly tanky. And I think a lot of people are missing that. And it's just like, it says plus 25 armor, but if you're not thinking like, hey, I should be, why is this not dying? Oh, it has plus 25 armor. Where's that plus 25 armor coming from? Why is it plus 20 armor? Like, it wasn't mentioned in any of the promotional material, even though it makes such a big difference, which makes me kind of weird about it.
So wait, let me see if I understand. The more heroes you have trying to kill one of the first objectives, the stronger it is. Is that what you're saying?
Per allied. So if a
allied hero.
Allied hero, yeah. So pushing with an objective is just really, really strong. And again, some of it is I think people just haven't played the map enough to like get a sense of like, this is how strong it is. This is what it takes to respond to things. That type. So it naturally snowballs. That way. I also think.
So what is that? So say the enemy team gets the objective first. You're saying that you should only. So wait, where does the objective go? Does it go top or mid? I don't know. I've only played the map twice.
Every lane.
Every lane.
It's like Tomb. Spider Queen.
Oh, it's like Tomb. Okay. So you want to 5-man push just one lane then?
I mean, if you have that ability.
If you have the ability to do it, yeah.
You're not going to lose like a million waves of soak.
Right.
It depends a little bit on your team. Some of the another element of the objective I think that people are undervaluing is that the objective gives a very clear everyone let's group up and go marker, which helps cover up for coordination deficits you find in quick match especially, but even on ranked draft, because in quick match nobody gets in voice comms ever, which means that that having this giant blue or giant red circle that says please get in me, let's fucking go, sorry language, Christian server,
phrasing
makes a big difference. And so I think that makes a big difference. It's why but it's also why Mosh and Diablo and Garrosh are all, ETC's Mosh, Diablo's charge flip combo, and Garrosh's flip combo are also good in these settings, is because it's a really obvious everyone let's go in and kill people. It's just like this kind of natural like built-in visual shot calling that otherwise can be missing.
Okay.
As to the like actual strength of the core, I do think the core could probably be a little bit stronger, especially when you have multiple keeps up. I think that it's very reasonable that the core is kind of like paper when you have 3 keeps down. But I think that the core, so the cores don't have splash. They actually do more damage to heroes than a normal core, but they don't have splash damage and they don't have a double damage against minions effect like normal cores do. So you can actually get these big pile-ups of range minions chipping away at the core while like your Muradin or whoever attacks the core. So it's a lot easier for you to do this natural, okay, I'm going to push from taking the first keep to taking the core, compared to some other maps where a lot of the time you take that first keep and it's 15 minutes in, you don't really feel confident, everyone's at half health, their Genji's about to respawn, and so you back off and wait for the catapults to catch up to you. Well, because the core on other maps will just clear your ranged minions that would do a bunch of free DPS for you. While on these maps, the core won't kill all those ranged minions, and so you'll have like 10 ranged minions helping you DPS the core down.
Yeah, it's really weird. From like my 3 games that I've played on it, I haven't figured out like if I like the core at all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it feels super weak. Like, just like instantly goes down. I felt like I only needed one of the keeps to be down in order for me to even like consider going for core. Like, yeah, obviously, like, oh, it keeps down, you can consider going for core, but it's like the way that they advertised for it, like, oh yeah, you can't really go for core if only one keeps down, it's way too strong. You play against it, you're like, wait, it barely does any damage and it's not that strong, it could be way stronger. So I don't know how I feel about it just yet.
Yeah, if we're talking about like comparing it to the actual Alterac Valley bosses from WoW, which is what it's based off of, those are considerably stronger than the core. You need to have like everyone all hands on deck to kill that thing.
I think a good starting place would be some kind of buff for the core's damage, or maybe just like cooldown reduction for the core. Because I think the core could cast the whirlwind ability very frequently when you had 2 keeps up, but it was like super infrequent when you had no keeps up. I think that would do a lot.
Nubtub said in the PTR you could trait with Tychus the core.
Oh, yikes.
Oh, yeah.
I hope they
fixed
fix
the
that.
Only a structure now. They fixed that. They fixed all those bugs.
Yeah, that's pretty funny though.
I think something that could have been interesting as well, like obviously it's still a really cool mechanic, but I think something that they could have done would be like every time you take a keep, like you know how it loses armor, but like you also give it a new ability.
Mm.
That would be interesting.
So like the whirlwind effect, like that's just baseline. You take 1 keep, it gets like a boss slam stun ability or something.
Yeah.
I think that's the opposite of what it needs. I think people's complaint is it's too easy to transition from taking your first keep with the second objective spawn to killing the core with your cavalry unit at like a quarter HP or whatever. And so I think that's the exact opposite. I think, giving the core a bunch of abilities and then disabling those abilities.
Yeah.
So Vita says, idea, each keep not only gives armor, but bonus damage. It only makes sense because that's what happens in Alterac Valley. Huh.
Yeah, I know. There's a bunch of different things, but I think most of it is... I think that people will say, oh, the core is like paper. No, the core is actually really tanky when you have 2 keeps up. It's just that it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. You could just sit there and like it'll barely do anything.
And so, so I think that more damage, new abilities, whatever. There's a bunch of different ways to make the core more threatening idea.
Yeah,
is what it should.
I think it needs a ranged attack too, because there's a huge difference between like something melee doing damage to you and something range doing damage to you. It's just like the range, the melee is gonna it has to have travel, like usually more travel time than a ranged attack. It has to sometimes go through not with this, I don't think, but it sometimes have to go through obstacles and like it has like an AoE ability with the whirlwind, but I don't know. I just think having a melee core seems, I don't know, just think about the other cores that they only did damage in melee range. I
just wish I had more data to talk about it.
Yeah, I feel like I've barely gotten the map in the whole week of it.
Okay,
you know?
So you like put it out, I'm convinced. I'm not like, obviously this is conspiracy theory, but it's like they put it in, I'm like, there's like, they made it so hard to get the map, even though it's completely random.
Yeah.
But it feels like they purposely don't give it to you.
Okay, remember that it's there's what, 6 maps in the quick match and unranked pool. So 5 out of 6 times you queue up, you're gonna feel real bad because the only reason you're not playing Hero League right now is because you want to get Alterac Pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, wait, for those in chat, this is Chaos's article on Alterac Pass. If you guys want to take a look at that, he has a bunch of spreadsheets linked in there, so you guys can take a look at it as well while we're talking. Go ahead, Chaos.
So I think anyway, so what were we just talking about? The cores, or
we're talking about core, melee range, and
we're also talking about how little we get the map.
The map frequency. Yeah. So talking to a dev, for whatever reason, they don't have a way to weight the probability. So you know how when you do giveaways on your stream, you can do like sub luck or whatever, and so like, have any way to do map luck? They in their current setup, they have no way to guarantee one map will show up more frequently than another, which kind of boggles my mind as to why they wouldn't think of that when they were setting up their map selection algorithm. But apparently that's actually like weirdly difficult for them to just fix.
To like give a heavier percentage to a certain map instead of like, yeah.
The only method is to cut down the total number of maps in the pool.
Right.
Yeah.
that a StarCraft engine issue?
No, that should be entirely their servers. So I don't. Again, I like without me going to Blizzard campus and sitting down and looking at their code base for 8 hours. I can't tell you why that is, but that's how it is. It's the same deal.
Go ahead.
Other bugs and weird things in Heroes of the Storm that are entirely because they're like deep engine level issues. Obviously, everyone talked about the Reconnect system, but Matt V on Twitter, when he was talking about, in case people don't know, there's a bug with Variance Shattering Throw and its interaction with heroes that have very little shields remaining, where it will still deal the full shield breaker damage, even going through their health. So, which means that a Phoenix who has the level 13 talent that gives you shields when you auto attack, and gets a little bit of shield and then gets Variant Shattering Throw, will often frequently just get gibbed because Phoenix will take like 1,300 damage or whatever from the Shattering Throw. Apparently, the fix for that involves fixing their damage code, which is like super like low foundational level for the game.
Oh.
Interesting. What's up, Hostile? How are you? Okay, so I'm looking at your spreadsheets here. Now, these spreadsheets are Catapult Reaver. Okay, so is this when how much damage they do, or is this like when they spawn and then survival time?
Yeah, so the time on the left is game time when the unit spawns.
Okay. And then okay, I see damage, structure DPS, HP. Yeah. And what is the survival time? Does that according to what?
How long it takes the core to kill a Reaver.
Okay, so this is just core. Okay. So if you guys are curious, I'm looking at where's the chat? Oh, there you guys are. I'm looking at this spreadsheet in the article that I just linked, as well as this spreadsheet as well, which is much more.
I saw something really embarrassing. I forgot to extend survival. Keep the survival time going down the entire thing. Let me fix that.
So, how long does it take you to just write all this out? Because this is a lot of information. Like,
it depends on the style of article. Map articles usually take a bit longer because I have to data mine all this information. I have to go through it, and then maps are something that are a lot harder to kind of conceptualize because there's a lot fewer in the game. So I've had a lot less practice writing this type of article. It's also like what are useful pieces of information I can provide people about maps.
Okay, so this one I'm looking at is NPC scaling. You even have like all the way down to like Abathur locusts. Dang.
So that first one, you just kind of like, okay, how long does it take for structures to kill different summons depending on the level of the hero?
Dang, the Zagara Roach, the Asmodan Demon Lieutenant. Dang, this is like incredible. Time elapsed, attack damage, minions, NPC, attack characteristics. Holy moly! How long have you been doing this?
I got most of that spreadsheet set up last summer, and then I did that's actually version 3 of the spreadsheet. Version 1 was the old 2017 stats. Version 2 was when they did their first update in December. And then this is the third version when in January they went back and fixed a lot of the issues they realized with the whatchamacallit.
Dang, so even the mud pit scales. Is that what I'm seeing here?
Okay, so what the mud pit is, so this is actually time. So this third one is, okay, so there are 16 ticks, game ticks per second.
So what's a tick? What do you mean?
It's okay, the game processes changes once every 1/16th of a second. Everything else is just visual and pretty.
Wow.
What this is I use this to figure out, okay, over the as the slow ramps up to, it doesn't tend to quite reach, it actually reaches 59.5%. at max rather than full 60%.
Mm.
But as that ramps up, how much are you actually getting slowed by? And then after the 3 seconds, it just stays at 60%. So it's trying to figure out, okay, noticeable if you're just running through the mud pit versus, say, you get stunned in the mud pit for 1.5 seconds by a Muradin, and then you try to leave the mud pit. How hard is that going to be?
Right. So if you stay in the mud pit, it slows you even more. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the mud pit starts off at no slow, and then over 3 seconds builds up to a 60% slow, which means that you're heavily incentivized to save your crowd control effects and displacement effects and whatever to keep people in the mud pits, so that way they get slowed for a bunch.
Dang. So so you want to look for someone in the mud pit to slow and dang. Okay. All right. So that's helpful. 1 hero, 2 cavalry. So what's this cavalry EHP right here?
Yeah, so this was me this was me figuring out, okay, so remember earlier I was talking about how cavalry gain more armor depending on how many heroes are nearby?
Right.
This is me figuring out, okay, so 1 hero means they have 5 armor, 2 heroes means they have 10 armor, 3 heroes means they have, yeah.
Okay.
And so just kind of figuring out. And so, and the reason why I did that is because the way armor is implemented, unlike other MOBAs with their damage reduction systems, the more armor you have, the more valuable the next point of armor you get is. And so if you just look at, say, the jump from 0 nearby hero to 1 nearby hero, you only get plus 500 EHP. So EHP is how much damage it takes to kill something.
Okay.
Contrast, going from 4 to 5 heroes, that's actually a really big jump.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm looking at this and trying to take it all in. I have questions, but I don't know exactly what I want to ask.
So I do this to kind of compile information so that way if there's a specific calculation I need to make, because people have questions like, say I'm doing a core push at 20 minutes and I want to figure out, okay, how much damage do I need to, and we're doing a 5-man push, how hard is that to kill? So, you scroll down until you get time at 20 minutes and, you got 5 heroes and you say, oh, the enemy team would need to do, just over 19,000 damage to actually kill the cavalry unit. And then you can say, okay, well, the enemy team has, Vala, Lunara, Ariel, Tassadar, plus Garrosh or whatever. And then you figure out, okay, if they're just hitting the cavalry, how long does it take for them to kill the cavalry? So it allows me, it's me compiling information so that way if I need to answer a much more complicated and specific question, I can go back and reference this work I've already done and use it to answer it. It also can kind of just give you a sense of you look at it and you see, wow, there's a really big jump from, there's a bigger jump from 4 to 5 heroes than there is from 0 to 1 hero.
Right.
And so that shows you that you're incentivized to a 5-man group.
Now, so here's a question. Do all of the HGC players know all of this math? Do they have to?
Very, very few know all the details. They have general ideas. Sometimes they will contact me and ask me for things. So, for example, for Tempo earlier this year, when Rag was seeing a lot of play, I went through and timed how long it takes for Rag's lava waves to go through all of the lanes on all of the HGC playable maps.
Huh.
Because they were wondering, okay, I'm playing Rag, and what is the optimal time for me to send my lava wave down a lane so it kills the maximum number of minion waves?
Interesting. Kubie, does your team know a lot of this, or do you guys when you're coaching, when you're talking and scrimming, do you guys talk about any of this?
Typically, conversations about the math of Heroes of the Storm typically takes place during patches or when a new patch is introduced.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like if a character gets changed or like damage is slowly nerfed, it's like, oh, that's like a 1 to 2% or 1.5% nerf in overall damage, and like so you can get into like nitty gritty statistics there. But for the most part, a lot of these things like competitive players just kind of like, I don't want to say naturally feel it, but like they figure out an approximate about all of this stuff, like how long spiders take to get to lane, how long Ragwave gets there. Yeah, sure, we sometimes seek out for the exact optimal thing so that we can like plan around it, but in the heat of a moment, it's more so just like you have to recall and just kind of like go with your base understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes, yes, we will end up talking about the math of almost anything in the game. Like, wow, spiders can do like, I'm just gonna throw out an arbitrary number. Like, oh, their wave can do like 20% of a squishy's HP. So please don't get hit by the wave of the spiders on the team of the Spider Queen.
Yeah.
But like, for the most part, we don't go as nitty gritty as Chaos does. But
no one needs to.
But also,
Yeah.
the nitty gritty details that Chaos goes into are always super helpful to competitive players, especially if they just need to like quickly get one specific thing. Like does a service to the community that nobody respects him enough for.
You should pay for your information. You should be like, hey, not you. I mean, you should get pay for your information. Like, hey.
I mean, I get paid by tempo for my articles, which
That's good.
Good enough.
That's good.
Yeah, so I mean, that counts. And I mean, and a lot of it is I started this because I felt there was not enough open source information. I've been thinking about like I should go to the HOTS wiki and just go through and fix anything that's wrong.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I started Eye of the Storm, because there was nothing really out there to teach anybody how to play the game, just how to play certain heroes. So it's kind of how everything just starts. So,
Yeah, like when you're specifically talking about like the math when you're like on a pro team or assisting a pro team, it's kind of just like I would say like at that moment in time, kind of like what Shot was saying. It's like, oh, this wave is probably gonna do this amount of damage, or it's gonna take her 4, or don't. Like it's like in the moment sort of things. It's not like, okay, we know when this happens, we know how much the spider does, and we're going to use it for this specific part of our strategy. It's like for things like that, I would say you would look more towards like lava wave timings, because you can control those.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else is kind of just like look at what situation you're in and figure it out from there.
Yeah.
Well, also, a lot of
What
times,
you already know.
a lot of times competitive teams and like players, like they've just played the same scenarios so many times that they know the power of like whatever they're doing. So like say it's like, oh yeah, like Siege Camp scales, like it's super nice to know that Siege Camp will scale in damage at like whatever 5 minutes 15 seconds, arbitrary numbers. It's super nice to know that. So like if you are about to cap it at 5:14, you can wait an additional second so it's stronger. Yeah, that's super awesome. Like if you can remember that. But most of the time it's like damage and the math is just like I've played this exact scenario or like so many times that I can basically predict the amount of value that I'm going to get out of this certain play without having to sit there and crunch the numbers.
Really,
just crunching the numbers and having the data that Chaos has is just like an added benefit or an added bonus for you to like just conceptualize it and see it in number form and actually like double check your thinking.
It gives you an idea about like the actual power of something, so you can use that in whatever situation you're in to predict, how much damage something is going to do. Or like Shot said, like if you're pushing, say like it's Cursed Hollow and you're 20 minutes in and you're getting the bottom boss and their keep wall is gone, well, you can probably push all the way to core if you get a kill with that boss.
Interesting.
I mean, so to use the early example of Web Weaver Death Wave, I don't expect most people have memorized that a 10-minute Death Wave does 600 damage, but you kind of have it especially because these numbers are constantly changing throughout the game. It's plus 12 damage per minute, but at that stage of the game it ramps up. But so you have you have a general sense this Death Wave is going to do about this percentage of my hit points. And so that's a lot easier way to go from my spreadsheets admittedly are rather intimidating. There is a ton of information on them, but and I mostly do that just for completeness sake. So there is at least one community resource that actually fully enumerates every exact detail. But it's more about getting that sense of it does about this much. And I'm more interested in comparisons. So to use Alterac Pass as an example, the Ice Giant Snowball does less damage than the total damage of the Grave Golem root, and overall is just kind of weaker because it's a 50% for slow for 1 second as opposed to like a 3-second root on the Grave Golem root. Also, the slowing zone is only marginal value type stuff. And so that I think is the much more interesting bit than knowing exactly, the base damage on the Grave Golem root's like 500 and the base damage on the Ice Shard is 275.
Yeah, I wish I had more questions for Alterac Pass, but I haven't played it a lot. So I don't really have a good sense of any type of strategy that I could possibly have come up with for playing the map.
Chromie's really annoying on the map.
Well, I bet. Well, Chromie's really annoying in general. So
really, with the way that the objectives spawn, poke heroes do really well. So Chromie obviously, most mages will do well. Gul'dan does really well.
Yeah, I think
another piece to use another piece of math. I think that's something that can be very helpful is knowing capture times. So knowing it takes 3 seconds for a hero to channel on the objective to cap or uncap it, while it takes 5 seconds for the grunts and footmen to. It can definitely be useful in terms of Chromie's Q has what a 4-second. What's the cooldown on again?
I think it's 4. Let me check real quick. I can check.
But anyways, the point is that it's just slightly longer than actually capping. But at the same time, you have to be kind of careful because if you're not good at baiting the Chromie Q, or maybe she's got her W up or whatever, then she can do that. The other thing is knowing cap times can be really important when you're evaluating something like say a Sanct play.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So Q's a 2.5 second cooldown, by the way, on Chromie.
It's just firing away. She can completely deny a cap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Azak
does
says
have a wind up though for half a second. That's after 1 second, so there is a 0.5 second
wind up.
There's a 0.5 second window where you can get the cap if you're capping.
Yeah. Because
if you instantly start capping, you have 0.5 seconds that you can get it off. But real quick, I just wanted to talk about because I got reminded of something that competitive players actually use all the time. Chaos started talking about timings of capture points and stuff. We do it all the time on Dragonshire. Dragonshire is extremely important to time your stepping on a point, capturing the point, whatever, just because you have to be communicating with your team the entire time in order to be I have top capture, you can get off of bot. If you are too much, if you can't hold it, just back up, I have top. Or I need to stall mid. No, I'm stepping on the point 3 seconds until it's not captured. Just knowing that it takes 3 seconds for you to uncap a point is huge. And I believe it takes I think it takes about 3 seconds as well to capture the DK. So if you step on a point and you like half a second before they start channeling the Dragon Knight, they're not going to be able to capture it. You'll uncap a point before they can capture it. So it's like super important to be like, have top lane step on the shrine, and then he waits half a second and goes, okay, you don't need to stall anymore. And so then mid could just be like, all right, cool, and then just like walk away and not even have to put themselves at risk in order to stall for DK or something along those lines. So like Dragonshire's an example that we time things and use the exact duration of caps often.
Yeah, because I noticed usually that the only reason why someone would get a dragon is if, nobody's mid. And then,
Right.
Because we're not on comms, like you said, nobody knows. Like, I'll say, like, I'm capping it now, but what does that mean to my team?
Yeah.
Like, they probably don't know exactly how long it takes to cap. Like, so they'll just
Yeah.
leave mid. And I'm like, wait, no, don't leave mid yet because I'm, yeah.
There's also another good example for just timing on points and stuff. For Braxis, if you have both the beacons and they're fully capped and your Zerg wave hits the 90% point, if the enemy team starts capturing one of the beacons after the 90% mark, they cannot uncap it in time.
Yeah.
So you can just let them do it. It's fine. Like they step on at 90%, okay, you're too late. I'm gone later.
Because it charges up faster than the actual cap animation does.
So that extra 10% will be done by the time they uncap the point.
Yeah, I've noticed that because I've been the one trying to recap a point, and then I'm like, there's no use of me doing this because they're just gonna get it whether I cap it or not. So
90% is the sweet spot for that.
Yeah. Nuptup wants to know, just like kind of like I guess this is kind of like off topic. When you're on Gul'dan, do you want Q or E build? And I'm guessing this is like in reference to like the new map specifically for poking. What would be the best?
Play style, I would say.
Reign of Destruction or Bust.
What's that?
Reign of Destruction or Bust.
Reign of Destruction. I go R build. I don't go Q build.
R build.
Curse Hollow. Well, generally, like Q build was meta for a while. It's really good against frontline oriented comps because you're going to get a lot of value out of it. The E build is really good in general. It does more damage, obviously, to backliners because it can actually hit them. Whereas your Q, if you're hitting backliners, either you're really winning that fight or you're horribly out of position. I would say usually E build is good. Q is like, if you notice that there's a lot of frontliners, this is just in my own experience, by the way. I've really only chosen Q build if there's a lot of frontliners.
I haven't played Gul'dan in forever. I really need to pick him up. He's been really, really popular lately.
He's a good mage.
Yeah, I feel like he's never been not viable. Gul'dan.
Turns out the Fear Ultimate, Horrify, is a really good ultimate that can just single-handedly win games.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Who knew?
On the other hand, you have a lot of times where your Gul'dan will drop Horrify in just the absolute wrong spot and just give the enemy team a free disengage, and you go, why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my.
It's a higher win rate overall in Hero League games.
Wait, what does?
The most recent Dev AMA on balance, there was a question of like, why don't you guys ever fix Reign of Destruction? And it's like, well, it actually has a higher win rate, and we have much bigger problems to worry about, so it's not obviously wrong.
That's so funny, though. That's so funny. Like, you would never think that, like, you would after having Lava Wave out for so long, you would never think that it's still like viable, especially in lower ranks it is, because people still freaking stand in the lava even though they know it's coming. It frustrates me.
I know.
The biggest thing about Lava Wave is it gives you macro advantage most of the time.
That's true, yeah.
It's free wave clear, and you don't have to send someone to get that soak.
So do you, even though you're not, if say nobody's in bottom lane and you throw a lava wave down, do you still get that soak?
Sorry, you cut out.
Yeah, you cut out there.
Oh, if nobody's in bot lane and you throw lava wave down in bot lane, do you still gain soak even though there's nobody in lane to?
Yeah, you kill them.
So the rules on soak are you need to be within XP range, which is about vision range. Bigger heroes actually technically have a very slightly vision range than their Diablo actually has a vision range that is slightly longer than his XP range. But the other is that even if you're not within that radius, then if you get the last hit. So the most obvious examples of this are Lava Wave and Asmodan Waves.
Okay. Lava Wave is more of a soaking tool, yeah.
Long range summons. So if you're playing so obviously Abathur's hat counts for XP soaking. But if the Locust gets a last hit, then you'll get experience from that kill.
Interesting. So if you go Lava Wave, how much damage can you rely on a Lava Wave to clear catapults? Does it do?
Yeah.
You can.
It'll always clear basic minions.
Even no matter what.
No matter what the basic minion is. Yeah.
And no matter what level you're at, right?
Yeah, no matter what level you're at, it'll always do
one-shot
basic minion waves.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and then, but it's only moderately effective against mercenaries.
Yeah.
So one of the
easiest
ways to counter Lava Wave is to pick up a mercenary camp in the lane that you want to kind of casually be pushing, and then even if the mercenaries take a bunch of damage from the Lava Wave, they'll still restart your push in that lane.
Cool. Okay. So Lava Wave, OP all the time. Every time. Every game.
I mean, it is but Sulfura Smash is kind of like a glorified Tyrande stun.
Yeah.
It obviously has good follow-up potential.
Wait, you can follow up off yourself. Molten Core, you swipe them, instant Sulfura Smash, guaranteed hit.
Oh wait, you can still Sulfura Smash while you're in while you use your D?
Yeah, it gets increased range.
Yeah.
Ooh, see that I didn't know because I don't normally play Ragnaros that much.
It gets increased range if you're in Molten Core.
Blue Wave also gets increased range when you're Molten Core.
Yeah,
is it
definitely.
similar to Guillotine?
What do you mean, like the range?
Just the damage in general, is it like basically the same ult? Or like does it...
Center...
Go ahead.
Actually pretty close to a max damage Guillotine. The center hit does a ton of damage. The center is like triple damage or something.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
Dang.
I just want to say real quick that one of these times I'm going to get this stream sponsored by McDonald's.
Do it! Do it! That would be awesome.
Because you know that our viewers are loving it.
Oh, shot.
I'm actually staring at a sandwich right now that I like an egg sandwich that I really want to eat, and it's just kind of looking at me.
Anyways, there's a lot of interesting pieces of there's a lot of interesting tidbits that we've gotten out of some of the recent balance AMAs, where they talk about like, you know, what is their this is something that could be a topic for another show. But just, you know, like looking at what is the devs process. If you could get a blue one, that'd be even better. Like, what is their process for examining on a talent tier? What are their acceptable bounds for popularity and win rates? Like, all those kinds of things where it's clearly there aren't easy answers, and a lot of the time when, you know, something seems like it's not fixed, they usually have good reasons for that, whether it's prioritization of dev time or it's other such things. And I recently got a tip from an anonymous source that this next week's balance patch could be pretty exciting. So,
no spoilers, no spoilers.
I don't know anything beyond that. I was just told, by the way, get excited for this week's balance patch.
Tyrande.
Okay, then. Who knows?
Wait, I want to be a Toronto one trick again. Give me.
Yes.
Same. We all want to be a Toronto one.
Yes. They're
Can we
nerfing
talk
Chen.
about the fact that the Owl build is so overrated compared to the auto attack build? Every time I go to Toronto, I go to the auto attack build and get massive value.
The owls are scary.
Owls are just more fun to play.
I guess it's just
Hard to
more
argue with
fun. Yeah.
In
It's
Hero
so much
League, I
more
like Eagle.
satisfying to land like a max range owl and just one shot someone than it is to like auto them to death.
I have a clip of myself doing that, and it synced up to my music so well. And it was just like the music was like queuing up, get ready for the drop, and as soon as I snagged that stupid Vala with my owl, the music just dropped, and it was just like.
But I would honestly agree with you, Chaos, that I think she's better with the auto attack build right now. She can literally 1v1 anybody in the game when
Like
she's
really scary.
when she gets some levels. So she's like an anti-flank character.
Ooh, maybe I should start doing Toronto one auto attack in silver.
Yeah.
Assassin Toronto is a thing.
Yeah, she's very scary too. Like if she gets out of control, she'll just like hard carry a game.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is starting to feel like Jake's show. When Jake always talks about Toronto.
Well, he has a Hedwig
I love
emote,
Toronto.
so Hedwig emote OP.
Anyways, well,
Yeah. All right, guys. So we have about 10 minutes left. This is Chaos's current article on Alterac Pass. Again, I'm linking it in the chat. If you guys want to take a look at it. Chaos, where can we find any of your other articles? Are they just on the Tempo Storm website, or?
Yeah, so they're almost on the Tempest Storm website. I actually think that I link in
Oh, no.
all of my...
What happened?
We lost Kubie.
Kubie's out of here. He's like, I hate these people.
No, Kubie.
He left.
I actually set up a little... I'm just going to put this in our little chat. But I actually set up a little link. I set this thing that basically just keeps track of all my article history. Because I actually only started writing for Tempo in January. This year. Before that, I was with Team Liquid, which is why Azax is in chat harassing me. And then before that, I actually wrote for. I just wrote a blog on HeroesHype.
Got it. Cool. So yeah,
Anyways,
go ahead.
Yeah.
You can find Chaos. His Twitter is right there if you guys are interested.
Yep. Yeah. My Twitter is where I will share links of it. Also, not to be obvious, but I post on Reddit, which is where I get the vast majority of the views for my articles.
There you go. So if you guys are interested in anything, just look up Math of the Storm on Reddit or TempoStorm.com.
Use code TEMPO for 20% off.
I'm pretty sure it's only 10. I don't know. I don't get any of that promo. So the reason why other people say that is that like Rennie, she wants you to use her code because she actually gets a cut of the profits whenever you use her code.
I mean, that's how any affiliate or sponsor is. You get a cut of like you kind of get like a commission. So it's like help me.
I don't get a commission, so I don't feel like advertising.
Yeah. Andre,
right.
give this man a cut.
All right, guys. Do you guys have anything else to say? This sandwich is staring at me, and I really want to eat it. Anything else? Anything? Chat. Do you guys have any questions for us? We kind of basically talked about everything we could. I don't think I have any other questions. Shot, Kubie? No.
I have a question. Why do they keep removing ARAM as the brawl?
Nobody knows. Okay. Pool party is worth it. Pool party?
Pool party was fun.
Pool party is fun for a day, and then it's no longer fun.
Poor Shot.
You could always play ARAM with your friend Shot.
You could, yeah.
Nexus happened.
You act like I have friends.
That's why.
I'm pretty sure that there's like if you like the chat channel ARAM actually will consistently run games. Also, in fairness, I think their arena brawls are actually pretty fun too. They're not fun when you're on a stim pack because if you go 1 and 2, then you get like 28 gold or something,
Yeah.
which is really obnoxious.
I'm just picky. I like ARAM way too much.
Oh, see, I hate ARAM.
Wait, ARAM's so much fun.
I get so the the matches last for so long that I get so zoned out that I'm just like I don't want to do this.
That's why I like it. I get to zone out and not actually like super try hard.
See, but that's bad for me because if I stream and play ARAM, I get so zoned out that I'm just like I'm not talking to chat anymore because I'm just so tired and I just like oh my god.
My favorite ARAM game, I was playing Wind Fury. I was playing E-Build Thrall, so I went Maelstrom Weapon at 7, and I think I got like 140 stacks by the time the game ended.
Oh wow!
Dang! Wait, what hero are we talking about?
Maelstrom Weapon at 7. You know, the talent that most people don't pick because it's impossible to get 30 stacks.
Wait, what hero are we talking about? I'm confused.
Thrall.
Thrall. Oh, okay.
The Wind Fury quest.
Yeah.
That's hilarious, actually. my favorite game was we had I don't even remember what our fifth. No, it was a Tracer. We had Tracer, Cassia, 2 Moraleses, and Anna, and we literally just told the Cassia to run it down, and we just healed her and she killed the entire game.
That's so scary. Oh man.
Run it down mid is always the strat.
It's always the strat.
Just go for it.
When in doubt, run it down mid.
Go core.
4 or 5 supports in ARAM, it's actually so good. Especially if like 2 of your supports are like Medivh or Tats or these kind of off supports, so that way you have some more damage.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I was good at Medivh.
Yeah, Cassia obviously really good.
I should start playing Cassia. She definitely seems I see very little of her in lower rank, but when I do see a Cassia, she's usually really good.
Yeah.
I really like Q build. Fun random fact, Q on Cassia has like 4.5% scaling for nobody knows reason.
That's why it hits like a truck.
I have no idea why.
Charge strikes are bust.
All right, guys. I think that concludes our episode today. I need to eat breakfast. Chaos, thank you so much for joining us and for taking the time to like explain everything, which now my mind is completely blown. Bless you.
Thanks.
Bless you. Thank you, Shaw and Kubie, again for co-casting with me. It's always fun.
No problem.
Oh, no problem. Oh my god. Chaos, is there any last things you want to say? Shout outs.
Yeah, shout outs. I will say Tempo Storm does pay me, so I do appreciate that. I actually do want to shout out my editor, Adam Parkser, because he actually goes through and my grind was pretty good, but he definitely fixes things up, points out when I'm speaking in words that only make sense to me, like those kinds of things.
That makes sense.
He also does all the graphics for my articles. So there's lots of pretty pictures in the articles. I don't do any of that. He does. So I just really appreciate the work he does to make my articles more legible compared to when I was at my previous places where I had editors that didn't add pretty pictures to my articles.
So now we get pretty pictures.
Yeah, no, it's great.
I like it.
More readable. Yeah. Okay, Azax is probably trolled enough by now. Anyway, so yeah, thank you very much.
Azax would never troll, alright? He's a sweet and innocent child.
He never trolls. Like, shot.
I'm also never toxic and I never flame.
Nope.
I don't know how you can say that without smiling.
Not once, my whole life.
Okay.
Stop it, because I have 2 of you on. So I have shot over here, and then I have shot over here because this is my Streamlabs OBS and this is my Discord, and he's looking at me from 2 different angles, and it's really creepy. I just can't. All right, guys. Next week. Wait, what is next week? The 30th?
It's like
Next week is the 30th. We will have a special episode for you next week. Another guest. And I can't tell you exactly what's special about it just yet. Kubie and Shot know. I almost called you Shubie.
I do.
Shubie.
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 Dooby-doo.
So
No, that's our chokehold name.
Shubie. Make sure to tune in next week. I will be announcing what is so special about next week's episode. We will be live at the same time, 11 a.m. PDT, every Saturday, 11, 12, 1, 2. That's 2 p.m. EST, right? Yeah, 2. Again, thank you guys so much for hanging out, asking the questions, and joining in chat. We will see you next week.